Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we're going to explore something deeply personal, something that touches every single one of us. Family and relationships. But we're not just going to talk about them in the way you might expect. We're going to look at them through a spiritual lens, to understand the sacred purpose behind the people who share our lives, our tables, our histories, and sometimes our struggles. Because here's the truth. The people closest to us are often our greatest teachers. Our families, our relationships, they're not random. They're divinely orchestrated classrooms where our souls come to learn, to grow, and to remember who we really are. So take a deep breath with me, settle into this moment, and let's begin. Section 1. The spiritual purpose of family. When we think about family, we often think about blood ties, shared genetics, childhood memories. And yes, those things are part of the picture. But from a spiritual perspective, family is so much more than biology. Your family, the people you were born into, the people who raised you, the siblings who shared your childhood, they were your first spiritual assignment. Before you even took your first breath in this world, your soul chose these people. Not because they would be perfect, not because the journey would be easy, but because they would help you become who you're meant to be. Think about that for a moment. Your family isn't a coincidence. It's a soul contract. Every challenging parent taught you something about strength or boundaries or forgiveness. Every difficult sibling showed you something about yourself, about patience, about unconditional love, about where you still need to heal. Even the family members who hurt you, who let you down, who didn't show up the way you needed, they were part of your soul's curriculum. This doesn't mean we excuse harmful behavior. It doesn't mean we allow people to hurt us repeatedly. But it does mean we can shift our perspective from victim to student. From why did this happen to me to what is this trying to teach me? And here's something beautiful. When we start to see our family members as spiritual teachers rather than sources of frustration or pain, everything begins to shift. We stop taking things so personally. We start to see the wounded child behind the critical parent. We recognize the fear beneath the controlling behavior. We understand that hurt people, and healed people heal people. Your family of origin was your first spiritual initiation. It set you on your path. And whether that path was gentle or rough, whether it was filled with love or marked by absence, it was exactly what your soul needed to wake up, to grow up, and to step into your purpose. Section 2. Relationships as mirrors. Now let's talk about relationships, the ones we choose. Partners, spouses, close friends, chosen family. These relationships are powerful spiritual mirrors. They reflect back to us exactly what we need to see about ourselves, especially when we don't want to look. Have you ever noticed that the things that bother you most about someone else are often things you struggle with yourself? The person who's always late triggers you because deep down you struggle with your own relationship to time and boundaries. The friend who's overly critical reminds you of your own harsh inner voice. The partner who's emotionally distant mirrors your own fear of vulnerability. This is what psychologists call projection, but spiritually, it's something deeper. It's the universe holding up a mirror and saying, here's what you still need to heal. Here's where you're still carrying wounds. Here's where you have more work to do. And the people we love most, they hold up the biggest mirrors. They see us in ways we don't see ourselves. They trigger our deepest wounds precisely because we've let them close enough to touch those wounded places. This is why intimate relationships can feel so challenging. It's not because we chose the wrong person, though sometimes we do. It's because real intimacy requires us to be seen, fully seen. And being fully seen means all our unhealed parts, all our shadows, all our defense mechanisms come rushing to the surface. But here's the gift in this. Every relationship that triggers you is inviting you deeper into your own healing. Every person who pushes your buttons is showing you exactly where you still have buttons to be pushed. They're not your enemy, they're your teacher. When you can embrace this truth, relationships become less about finding someone who doesn't trigger you and more about finding someone who's willing to grow alongside you, someone who's committed to their own healing, someone who can hold space for your shadows while you hold space for theirs. Because the goal isn't to find a perfect person. The goal is to become a more whole, healed, awakened version of yourself, and to invite your partner to do the same. Section 3. Breaking generational patterns. Let's go deeper now. Let's talk about something that affects every single family: generational patterns. You've probably heard the saying, hurt people hurt people. Well, it's true, and often the hurt we carry isn't even our own. It's inherited, passed down through generations like a family heirloom nobody asked for. Your grandmother's unexpressed grief becomes your mother's anxiety, which becomes your depression. Your grandfather's anger, rooted in trauma he never processed, becomes your father's emotional distance, which becomes your struggle with intimacy. The poverty consciousness your great-grandparents developed during hard times becomes the scarcity mindset that keeps you playing small. These patterns run deep. They're written into the fabric of your family system. And if you don't consciously break them, you'll unconsciously repeat them. But here's the powerful part. You can be the one who breaks the cycle. You can be the ancestor your descendants thank. You can be the one who says, "This pattern ends with me." This is sacred work. This is the work of healing not just yourself, but your entire lineage. Past, present, and future. When you heal backward and forward in time. You release your children from carrying your unhealed wounds. You free your ancestors from the patterns they couldn't break. How do you do this? Through awareness, through intentionality, through doing your own inner work, through therapy, through spiritual practice, through honest self-reflection, through feeling the feelings your parents couldn't feel, through speaking the truths your grandparents couldn't speak, through making different choices, even when those choices feel uncomfortable or unfamiliar. It's not easy. Breaking generational patterns never is. Your family system will resist it. People will call you selfish or ungrateful. They'll say, "You're too sensitive," or "making a big deal out of nothing." They'll trigger you, test you, try to pull you back into the old dynamics. But stay committed to your healing. Stay committed to breaking the pattern. Because you're not just doing this for yourself. You're doing it for everyone who came before you and everyone who will come after you. You're the cycle breaker, the pattern interrupt, the generational healer. And that's one of the most spiritually significant roles you can play in this lifetime. Section 4. Forgiveness as a spiritual practice. Now we need to talk about forgiveness, because you can't heal family wounds without it. But let's be clear about what forgiveness actually is. Forgiveness is not saying what happened was okay. It's not excusing bad behavior. It's not staying in harmful relationships. It's not spiritual bypassing or pretending you're over it when you're not. Real forgiveness is releasing the grip that old hurts have on your heart. It's choosing freedom over resentment. It's understanding that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. When you forgive, you're not letting them off the hook. You're letting yourself off the hook. You're releasing yourself from the prison of bitterness. You're taking back the power you gave to them when you decided their actions would define your peace. And here's something that might surprise you. Forgiveness doesn't happen all at once. It's not a single decision you make and then you're done. Forgiveness is a practice. It's something you return to again and again, each time you notice the resentment creeping back in. Sometimes you need to forgive the same person for the same thing 70 times 7. And that's okay. That's part of the process. Each time you choose forgiveness, you loosen the grip just a little more. Each time you release, you free up more space in your heart for joy, for peace, for love. But forgiveness also requires honoring your anger first. You can't forgive what you haven't fully felt. So if you're carrying rage towards someone who hurt you, feel it. Write about it. Scream into a pillow. Talk to a therapist. Don't skip over the anger in a rush to get to forgiveness. The anger is valid. The hurt is real. Honor it. And then, when you're ready, when you've felt it fully and it starts to shift, that's when forgiveness becomes possible. That's when you can say, "What you did hurt me, and I'm choosing to release you from my heart anyway. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace." Sometimes the person you need to forgive most is yourself, for staying too long, for not seeing the signs, for repeating the same pattern, for hurting people you loved, for not being the parent, the partner, the child you wanted to be. Self-forgiveness might be the hardest kind of all, but it's also the most important, because you can't fully show up in your relationships while you're carrying shame and self-judgment. You can't love others well while you're withholding love from yourself. So forgive yourself too. Speak to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you dearly love, with compassion, with understanding, with grace. You did the best you could with the awareness you had at the time, and now you know better, so you'll do better. That's not making excuses. That's just the truth of how growth works. Section 5, Boundaries as an Act of Love. Let's talk about boundaries now, because this is where many people get stuck in family and relationships. We've been taught that love means being endlessly available, that family means tolerating any behavior, that spirituality means being nice, being accommodating, being selfless to the point of self-erasure. But that's not love, that's not family, and it's definitely not spirituality. Real love requires boundaries. Healthy families have boundaries, and your spiritual path demands that you honor your own needs and limits. Boundaries are not walls. They're not about shutting people out. Boundaries are about teaching people how to treat you. They're about preserving your energy for what truly matters. They're about creating space for authentic connection instead of resentful obligation. When you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you're saying yes to something that does. When you set a limit with someone, you're creating the possibility for a healthier relationship with them, or at least protecting yourself from an unhealthy one. Here's what boundaries might look like: not answering every call, not attending every family gathering, not accepting criticism disguised as concern, not explaining your choices to people who've already decided you're wrong, not making yourself smaller to make others comfortable. And here's the thing about boundaries with family: they'll test them, they'll push back, they'll say you've changed and not in a good way, they'll call you difficult, stubborn, cold. Let them, because you're not being any of those things. You're being clear, you're being self-aware, you're being committed to your own well-being. And that's not selfish, that's essential. Jesus had boundaries, Buddha had boundaries. Every spiritual teacher who ever lived had boundaries. They didn't heal everyone who asked, they didn't attend every gathering, they didn't say yes to every request. They protected their energy because they understood that in order to serve others, you must first maintain your own spiritual, emotional, and physical health. You can love someone from a distance. You can wish someone well without having them in your life. You can honor your parents without tolerating their dysfunction. You can be kind without being available. You can be compassionate without being consumed. Boundaries aren't unspiritual. Boundaries are deeply spiritual. They're how you honor the sacred vessel that is your body, your mind, your heart, your life. They're how you create space for the relationships that truly nourish you. So practice saying no. Practice setting limits. Practice honoring your needs without guilt. It will feel uncomfortable at first, but discomfort is just growth in progress. And on the other side of that, discomfort is a version of you who's more peaceful, more grounded, more authentically connected to the people who really matter. Section 6. Choosing your family. There's a beautiful truth that many people discover as they grow. Family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up, who sees you, who celebrates you, who holds you when you fall apart. Sometimes your chosen family, your friends, your mentors, your spiritual community becomes more family than your family ever was. And that's not only okay, it's sometimes necessary for your healing and growth. The people who've never met your family of origin but love you fiercely. The friends who check on you not out of obligation but genuine care. The community that accepts you exactly as you are, not as they wish you would be. These people are your soul family, your tribe, your chosen ones. And honoring these relationships is just as important, just as sacred, as honoring your biological family. Maybe more so, because these are the people who chose you and whom you chose in return. There's no obligation here, just pure, authentic connection. Building chosen family is an act of creation. You're consciously designing the support system you need. You're surrounding yourself with people who reflect your values, who encourage your growth, who hold space for all of who you are. This doesn't mean your biological family doesn't matter. It just means you're expanding your definition of family to include the people who truly show up as family in your life. And sometimes your biological family and your chosen family overlap. Sometimes the people you're related to by blood are also the people who see you, support you, celebrate you. When that happens, it's a beautiful gift. Treasure it, nurture it. Don't take it for granted. But if that's not your reality, know that it's okay to build your family from the ground up. It's okay to create new traditions with people who aren't related to you. It's okay to spend holidays with friends instead of relatives. It's okay to define family on your own terms. Your soul family is out there. They're looking for you too. Stay open, stay authentic, and trust that the right people will find their way to you at exactly the right time. Section 7. The spiritual practice of presence. Here's something we often miss in our relationships: the power of simply being present. We're so focused on fixing, on solving, on making things better, on moving past the hard stuff. But sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is just be with someone, fully, completely, without trying to change anything. Presence is a gift. It's becoming increasingly rare in a world of constant distraction and endless tasks. But when you give someone your full presence, when you put down your phone, turn off the TV in your mind, and really see the person in front of you, that's when real connection happens. This is especially important in family relationships, because families are where we often show up the least. We think we know these people, so we stop really seeing them. We relate to our parents as who they were 20 years ago. We see our siblings through the lens of childhood dynamics. We interact with our partners on autopilot. But people change. People grow. People carry struggles we know nothing about, dreams they've never spoken aloud, pain they hide behind smiles. What would happen if you approached your family members with fresh eyes? If you asked questions you've never asked before? If you listened, really listened, without planning your response? What would happen if you sat with your aging parent and just held their hand? If you looked at your child not as someone to manage, but as a soul you're privileged to guide? If you saw your partner not as your familiar roommate, but as the mystery they truly are? Presence is how we honor the sacred in each other. It's how we say, I see you, you matter. This moment with you matters. And here's what's beautiful. When you practice presence in your relationships, you begin to experience presence in your own life. You start to notice the small miracles. The way light falls across the kitchen table, the sound of laughter in another room, the comfort of a familiar voice. Presence is the portal to gratitude, and gratitude transforms everything. So practice being here. Practice putting down the distractions. Practice looking into the eyes of the people you love and really seeing them. Practice listening, not just to words, but to what's beneath the words. This is spiritual practice. This is meditation in action. This is how we remember that we're all connected, all divine, all worthy of being truly seen. Section 8. Love as a choice and a commitment. Let's talk about love now. Real love. Not the Hollywood version, not the fairy tale, but the gritty, show up even when it's hard kind of love. Because here's the truth. Love is not just a feeling. It's a choice, a commitment, a daily practice. The feeling of love, the butterflies, the excitement, the can't stop thinking about them phase. That's wonderful, but it's not sustainable. It's not what carries you through the hard times. What carries you through is the choice to keep loving when the feeling fades. The commitment to stay when it would be easier to leave. The practice of showing up for someone even when they're not showing up as their best self. This is true in romantic relationships, but it's also true in family relationships. Loving difficult family members is a choice. Staying connected to people who've hurt you, if that's what you choose, is a commitment. Working through conflict instead of walking away takes practice. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is set a boundary or create distance. Because love doesn't mean tolerating abuse. Love doesn't mean sacrificing yourself on the altar of someone else's dysfunction. Love includes self-love. And self-love sometimes says, I love you, but I can't have you in my life right now. Real love is both tender and fierce. It's compassionate and it's clear. It's patient, but it's not passive. It's kind, but it's not doormat-like. It celebrates the other person while also celebrating itself. When you understand love as a practice, relationships become less about finding the perfect person and more about becoming a person who knows how to love. Someone who can hold space for imperfection. Someone who can communicate needs clearly. Someone who can apologize when wrong and forgive when hurt. Someone who can see the divine spark in another person, even when that person is struggling to see it in themselves. This kind of love, it's revolutionary. It changes families, it heals generational wounds, it creates new templates for what relationships can be. And it starts with you, with your willingness to show up, to choose love over fear, to commit to growth over comfort, to practice compassion over judgment again and again, one moment at a time. Section 9. Gratitude for the journey. As we begin to close, I want to invite you into gratitude. Gratitude for your family, with all its complications. Gratitude for your relationships, with all their challenges. Gratitude for the journey that has brought you to this moment. Yes, even gratitude for the hard parts, because those hard parts shaped you. They taught you what you needed to learn. They cracked you open so the light could get in. Gratitude doesn't mean you're glad difficult things happened. It means you're able to find meaning in them. You're able to say, that was painful, and I grew from it. That hurt, and it made me stronger. That almost broke me, and somehow I'm still here. When you can hold gratitude alongside grief, acceptance alongside anger, peace alongside pain, that's when you know you're healing. That's when you know you're integrating all of who you are and all of what you've experienced. So take a moment now. Think about your family. Think about your closest relationships. And even with all the complexity, all the history, all the unmet needs and unspoken words, can you find something to be grateful for? Maybe it's a small thing, a kind word someone spoke once, a meal shared, a moment of understanding, a lesson learned. Maybe it's just gratitude that you survived, that you're still here, that you're still capable of love despite everything. Let that gratitude fill your heart. Let it soften the edges of your pain. Let it remind you that alongside the struggle, there has also been grace. Alongside the wounds, there has also been wonder. Alongside the breaking, there has also been becoming. Call to action. Before we close, I want to ask you something. If this message resonated with you today, if something shifted in your heart or your perspective, would you take a moment to let me know? Leave a comment below, sharing what spoke to you most. Was it the idea of boundaries as love? The practice of forgiveness? Breaking generational patterns? Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Your story might be the permission someone needs to start their own healing journey. So please, share your reflections in the comments. Let's create a community of people committed to healing family wounds and showing up more authentically in their relationships. And if you found value in this message, please consider subscribing to this channel and hitting the notification bell. I create spiritual content like this regularly, exploring themes of healing, growth, surrender, and awakening. Your subscription tells me this work matters to you and helps this content reach others who need to hear it. You can also share this video with someone in your life who might need these words today. Sometimes we're called to be messengers of healing for others. If someone came to mind while you were listening, trust that instinct and send this their way. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for your willingness to grow, to heal, to do the inner work. You matter more than you know. Closing, gentle, hopeful tone. Your family and your relationships, they're not separate from your spiritual path. They are your spiritual path. They're where you practice everything you're learning about love, forgiveness, boundaries, presence, and growth. They're where theory becomes practice, where awakening becomes real. And here's the beautiful truth. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have perfect relationships or a healed family system. You just have to keep showing up, keep choosing growth, keep practicing love, keep doing your work. That's enough. You are enough. Every person in your life, whether they stay or go, whether they heal or don't, whether they see you or remain blind, they're all part of your sacred journey. They're all playing their role in your awakening. So, honor them. Even the difficult ones. Honor the lessons they brought. Honor the ways they cracked you open. Honor the love even when it was imperfect. Honor the growth even when it was painful. And most of all, honor yourself for having the courage to be in relationship, for staying open despite the risks, for loving even when love has hurt you, for showing up again and again as the imperfect, beautiful, sacred being that you are. You are walking a path that requires tremendous courage, and you're doing it. One step, one choice, one moment of presence at a time. May you find peace in your family relationships. May you experience healing in your closest connections. May you know, deep in your bones, that you are loved, you are seen, and you are never, ever alone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for doing this sacred work of being human, of being in relationship, of being on this journey. May you walk in love. May you live in peace. May you know your own divine nature, and may you see that same divinity reflected in everyone you meet. Blessed be.